What's up, guys? Welcome back to Money Crow, the channel all about making your money grow. There's FIRE, baristaFIRE, coastFIRE, leanFIRE, and fatFIRE. We're going to talk about which one is right for you and what you can start doing today to get there. Let me start by first explaining those different types of FIRE. FI by itself simply means financial independence. I covered this in my last video. It means having enough income from passive income sources to cover your living expenses for the rest of your life. FIRE, adding the RE at the end, means you have achieved financial independence and decided to retire early. What you do after that is completely up to you. baristaFIRE is having all your investments providing some of your living expenses while you still work somewhere, typically not full-time, in order to generate the remaining necessary income for the rest of your living expenses. And if you get really lucky, this part-time job may provide you with health insurance, so that's one less thing to worry about. An example of this is, say you want to spend $30,000 per year in retirement, but your investments only allow you to withdraw $20,000 per year, so you must get a job to make that remaining $10,000. coastFIRE is reaching an amount in investments that you allow to grow to your goal amount, without ever withdrawing from them until you reach retirement. You expect those investments to grow to the proper portfolio number to sustain your living expenses once you reach your goal age. So for example, say you want $1 million in retirement and you have $100,000 when you reach coastFIRE. Even if you never contribute another penny to your investments, by simply leaving your investments growing without withdrawing anything for 25 years, based on the historical return of the stock market, I'm talking about something like the S&P 500, you will have over $1 million after waiting those 25 years. So basically, you save up a certain amount, in this example it was $100,000, and then you never contribute another penny if you don't want to, and you just let it grow until you're ready to retire, and by that time, it should have grown to where you want it to be. leanFIRE typically refers to a frugal person that sacrifices certain luxuries in order to buy themselves the freedom of choice and time. Someone that's leanFIRE doesn't spend on extravagances, and usually that means spending less than $40,000 per year in retirement. fatFIRE, on the other hand, is a goal for many high-income earners, but it can also be a goal for low-income earners with an extremely high savings rate. There isn't an exact definition of how much money this person will spend in retirement, but according to their subreddit, it means to retire with a fat stash. To me, this means spending anything over $100,000 per year in retirement that's being generated by passive income sources. Did any of those FIRE paths sound like something you can identify with? In the rest of this video, we'll be going over what you can start doing today in order to achieve the FIRE goal of your choice. And remember, of course, step one is to build an emergency fund, which I've talked about in previous videos, and also paying off high interest debt, because that can really weigh you down. But the information in this video is still very important even if you're early on your financial independence journey. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to my amazing Patreon supporters. We have our standalone Crow CEO, Jorge Ledesma, and our 4 Crow investors, Prismatic, Erica, Andrew Paz, and John Harden. Thank you all so much for your continued support. If you guys want to be notified immediately after I make a trade, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. I'll have all that information listed on there, linked down below. Another easy way to help out the channel is by clicking my 3 different referral links so we can both get free stocks and free cash. For a limited time, Webull is giving away 2 free stocks valued up to $1,600 if you signed up before October 30th. The minimum they're giving is $8 per stock, so that's a free $16 guaranteed. M1 Finance is giving away $10 in cash, and Robinhood is giving away a free stock like Apple or Facebook or many others when you sign up. Links are all in the description. Thank you. So now that you know the different types of FIRE, let's get into the fun part and set goals to see what you have to do to actually achieve FIRE. I encourage everyone to follow along with your actual numbers that are specific to your life. How much money do you spend per year currently? If you don't know this number off the top of your head, I highly encourage you to find out what that number is. If you watched my video on how to stop living paycheck to paycheck and start investing, you understand the importance of seeing exactly how much money is coming in and going out. For my example, I'll say I'm currently spending $30,000 per year. Now ask yourself, do you want to spend less, the same amount, or more in retirement? Choose your number. It can be any number at all. To keep things simple for this example, I'll say I'll be spending the exact same amount in retirement that I'm spending now, $30,000. Now let's look into the Trinity study. Without getting too into the weeds about it, this was a study performed by top finance professionals that looked at many different parameters and market cycles and ran simulations in order to discover a safe number for people to withdraw from their portfolio each and every year for the rest of their life while adjusting for inflation. They evaluated millions and millions of safe withdrawal rates, and the final number they got was 4% of your portfolio value on the day of your retirement. So that means you can withdraw 4% per year, adjusting for inflation every single year, but never increasing past that initial 4% number, even if your portfolio grows larger. So let's say I just turned 70. I know that's technically not an early retirement, but I wanted to give an example of a 30-year time frame. I always like planning to live to at least 100. I'm optimistic in that sense, so I can plan for a best case scenario. So I just turned 70, I have $1 million invested. Let's say 75% is in stocks, 25% is in bonds, which I see a lot of FIRE calculators default to. Some people may argue that that's way too much allocated to stocks for a retired person, but I'm gonna go over my reasoning for why I like more stocks in retirement so it can last longer and still grow while you're withdrawing from your portfolio. So I'm deciding to retire and withdraw from that portfolio. 4% of $1 million is $40,000. I'm able to withdraw $40,000 every single year for the rest of my life, while still adjusting for inflation each year, and I'll never run out of money. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, but based on all past possible historical cycles, this scenario would result in a 95% success rate over a 30-year retirement period. One of my absolute favorite resources is Firecalc, which I use all the time. I'll link it in the description so you can play around with it, and I'll be attaching screenshots here so you can see some scenarios. If you guys enjoy this type of content, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. If you're anything like me, you probably saw that 95% success rate over 30 years number from before and said, okay, that's not bad, but how can I reach 100% safety? And what if I plan to retire for longer than 30 years? I'm gonna be revealing my personal strategy for a safe withdrawal rate with a 100% chance of success, no matter if you're retired for 1 year or 100 years. Of course, I do have to reiterate that this is only 100% safe based on past history, and anything could happen in the future. But I'm definitely optimistic in the sense that I believe capitalism and the world as a whole will prosper well into the future. So let's plug the numbers in for my preferred strategy. This portfolio is comprised of 80% broad market stocks and 20% broad market bonds. For stocks, I would use a ticker symbol like VTI, and for bonds, I would use a ticker symbol like BND. Both of those are very low cost, highly diversified ETFs. Although that asset allocation may be an oversimplification and not include foreign holdings and things like that, but honestly, it's an easy, no-brainer, quick to-fund portfolio that will more than likely outperform the vast majority of portfolios. In addition, I'm lowering the safe withdrawal rate from 4% down to 3%. The reason for this is, of course, higher chances of success, but also because my goal is not only to never run out of money for my expenses, but to also allow my portfolio to continue growing larger so that in the far future, I can be more charitable with my money and teach my future children about money and have them eventually inherit my portfolio with more than enough knowledge to make it last for generations to come. I'll be leaving each of the result screens up for a couple seconds, but please feel free to pause the video if you'd like to see them in greater detail. So this is the chance of success over 1 year. In all these pictures, you'll see the minimum balance that you have based on all possible historical cycles, the maximum balance that you can have, and also the average balance that these cycles returned. We can see that based on these simulations, we have a 100% success rate, and spoiler alert, it'll be exactly the same 100% for the rest of them, but just take a look at the growth of your portfolio even after withdrawing all that money from it every single year. These are the results for the 10-year retirement. These are the results for the 20-year retirement. 30-year retirement, 40-year retirement, 50-year retirement, 60-year retirement, 70-year retirement, 80-year retirement, 90-year retirement, and just for fun, 100-year retirement. As I said before, we have a 100% chance of success every single time. I understand some of these time frames are way too long for a typical retirement, but I decided to show them more for illustration purposes of how compound interest can still dominate in an environment where you're continuously withdrawing a portion of the balance each year. It also shows you how much your heirs stand to inherit. The Firecalc website is pretty intuitive, but to make things easier, simply click on the tab titled Your Portfolio in order to change the settings. The default is 75% stocks, 25% bonds. And then go back to the tab titled Start Here in order to input your withdrawal amount, portfolio value, and the length of years that you expect to continuously withdraw that amount from your portfolio. You don't have to use my 3% withdrawal strategy because it's definitely more conservative, but please play around with the Firecalc with your personal plan and know what you're getting yourself into. Know how safe your strategy is, because you wouldn't want to retire for some time, even decades, and then run out of money and return to the workforce, or even worse, not be able to work. Like I explained before, I plan to use an 80% stock and 20% bond portfolio, but that may be too volatile for a lot of people. Try out different asset allocations that fit your risk tolerance more accurately. In order to find your portfolio number, if you want to use a 4% withdrawal strategy, simply multiply the amount you want to spend every year in retirement by 25. So if that number is $40,000, multiply that by 25 and you get $1 million. If you want to follow me and use a 3% safe withdrawal rate, multiply your number by 33.34. So if we use that same $40,000 times 33.34, we get $1,333,600. Now you know how to plan for a safe retirement once you actually hit your portfolio number. But today, it's time to plan out how to save and invest enough to actually reach your portfolio number within your desired time frame. So based on the information from before, you should have a portfolio number in mind for retirement. I'll keep things simple and say mine is $1 million even. If I have literally nothing invested, $0 in assets, and I want to retire in say 30 years, I would need to invest $820 per month and average a 7% annual rate of return over the next 30 years in order to reach $1 million. And remember, that's starting from scratch. Keep in mind the S&P 500, something like VOO, has returned a little over 10% per year, but I'm using 7% to adjust for inflation. So if we plug in 10% instead of 7%, technically you will have almost $2 million in those 30 years, but your spending power will be as if you had $1 million in today's money. I know I've linked this compound interest calculator before in my video about how to invest for teenagers and young adults, but I'll do it again in this video because it really is such a useful planning tool. Plug in your information here based on the assets you currently have, what you plan to invest each and every month. Use the average 10% number or switch it to 7% to visualize things a little more accurately. And then choose your retirement age. If you're a high earner or high saver and you want to retire early in, let's say, 10 years with $1 million, starting from scratch, you would need to invest $5,750 per month, every month for 10 years and get at least a 7% average annual rate of return. This journey is very different for each and every person, but the tools are thankfully available now in order to get started planning for your goals and implementing them in order to achieve financial independence for the goodness of your life and your future. Thank you guys so much for watching until the very end. I hope you'll be back for future videos, and as always, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, and comment. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.